Today, I hope to give you guys a little bit of motivation and fuel maybe for chasing your dreams, and then hopefully talk a little bit to the younger crowd too, almost like a letter to myself. Some of the most frequent comments that we get on the channel are, "Oh, you're so lucky you get to do horses. I've always wanted to do that." Or we hear a lot from older people too that are like, "I always wanted to own a horse, but I never did it." And I just think those comments are kind of sad, right? I think life is just too short to not do what you love. I want to read a Nelson Mandela quote that I love. This was shared with me by a great mentor. But he says, "There's no passion to be found in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. We only have one life, so it is important that we pursue what we are passionate about and not be discouraged by the possibility of fear or failure. You must take risks, you must take chances, because to get something you never had, you have to do something you've never done." I really love that quote. You only get one life. When I was younger, I chose to get a business degree at Utah State, and I skipped a lot of class to ride and train horses. And I did eventually graduate, but it drove my dad crazy because my dad left the ranch. He didn't like the struggle and the unpredictability of ranching. And so I think in a lot of ways, by me returning to that, he maybe felt like I was undoing some of what he did. But when I was 4 years old and trailed cows for the first time out of our summer range in Star Valley, Wyoming, it was the middle of a blizzard. I remember following my dad's horse and thinking, this is what I was born to do. And it's one of the most vivid memories I have from my youth. And so I've just kind of always known that's what I needed to chase. I just got started later than I wish I would have. My parents didn't really get it, and that's okay. I actually think a lot on some of the early comments that were on Dale Brisby's channel about, hey, they were making fun of him. I mean, they were really ruthless to Dale Brisby, but now that guy has built an empire. He rubs shoulders with J.B. Mooney and Cam Haines and Joe Rogan. And so, to some degree, you do have to be able to put people's comments and opinions just on the back burner to kind of chase what you're looking to do. So I do think there's probably a couple of cautions here. Chasing passion is more about the process of doing what you love rather than reaching some level of success. So I think, this is a problem for me that I have to keep relearning because my favorite part of horsemanship is colt starting. But I always do want to get a colt to a certain level before I start having a lot of fun with them. And sometimes I'm impatient with that process. So I do think chasing passion is more about the process of chasing it. Leonardo da Vinci, I love studying artists because to me, that's what horsemanship is. It's an art form. And when you read about him, he actually left a lot of work unfinished. The Mona Lisa is unfinished. He worked on so many projects that were that he didn't finish. And I think, we do that a lot with horses. Horses are never really finished. You can always work on something. But he was really good about focusing on the process and kind of doing what he loved. And I think that's the same for horsemanship. I guess my second word of caution would be chasing passion is not for the undisciplined. You have to remember that no amount of success is worth achieving if you do it alone. And personally, so I got married at a really young age to my high school sweetheart. We're still married today. She's number one for me.
Cheering you on.
She's number one, but there's been a lot of times when, I was at an arena until 10:30 at night, loping circles, trying to work through something with the horse and figure stuff out. And so she definitely has been patient with that. So, I do think you do have to be disciplined. I am not saying to quit your day job and just put everything else on the back burner and chase what you love. But I think if you can sacrifice 30 minutes to an hour a day of time that you might be scrolling on social media, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you're a painter, if you're a photographer, if you're a horseman. I do think find time to chase that passion, because life's too short. It's too short, and nobody on their deathbed is going to be like, man, I was so glad that I was just practical all the time and that I didn't do what I loved. I don't think anybody feels that way. And to some degree, I think it is hard for our parents to accept the things that we want to chase sometimes. And maybe not just our parents, maybe it's teachers or, maybe youth group leaders at our church or friends, whoever. Mike, didn't your dad, you bought a camera and he was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I bought my first camera and he was disappointed that I blew my money on a camera instead of books for school or rent in college.
Yeah, and so I think that's a great testament, because all of the quality that you see on our channel is a testament to what Mike does and him developing and working his craft. And Mike has done everything from feature films to he's been able to work on some really cool projects that he wouldn't have had the opportunity to do those if he wouldn't have bought the camera, right? I mean, that's probably some of the best money you ever spent.
Absolutely.
So I'll share one last story. When I was 15, my dad and I were driving around the ranch in the truck, and I think he kind of knew that I wanted to play football. I loved Remember the Titans, but I hadn't really played any Little League. I wasn't that great of an athlete. But he asked me, he said, do you ever regret not playing football? And I said, every day. I would love to play football, but it's probably too late. I was 15. I was thinking about high school football. And he just turned to me and he said, it's never too late. And that memory is really stuck with me. So it doesn't matter if you're 20 or if you're 75. If you're really drawn to do something, life's too short to not chase it a little bit. Again, be sensitive to the relationships you have. Don't burn all those down. But that was probably some of the best advice that my dad ever gave me. This last weekend, I had a gentleman come over, and when he was young, he's in his 70s now, but when he was younger, he worked at a dude ranch, and he said, I just have always missed those mornings on horseback up in the mountains. And I've never had an opportunity to own a horse, but he said, I know now I'm older, but I want to do it. And I think that's so cool that people are trying to do it. But at the same time, I do lament a little bit that they've missed out on that experience their whole life and working on that process. So again, I don't think it matters how old you are. If you have a passion that you've thought about chasing, go do it. If you got to do music or horsemanship, but I think it's worth it. So guys, thanks for staying with us through maybe a little bit more unstructured format on the channel. Really appreciate all the support we've had. It's just been a really cool experience to just document some of what we're doing on horseback. Mike loves telling these stories and shooting and editing, and it's been a really fun project for us. We got some good stuff coming up. Happy riding, training, go chase it. Adios.